Assalamu alaikum everyone and good morning ladies and gentlemen. My name is Saadain. I am the RPA business analyst here at Systems Limited and I shall be your host for today's event. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here this morning at our first live webinar on RPA Expand Your Automation Footprint, organized by Systems Limited and partnered by IBM. We are honored to be part of this exclusive community of IBM, which is a highly reputable tech company recognized around the globe for its massive contributions in revolutionizing the digital universe of various organizations. Systems Limited itself has been the market leader of tech world within Pakistan. Its seeds were sown 41 years ago. Since then, our company has rigorously made efforts to transform the information technology landscape. Today's event is all about empowering with IBM robot process automation. To begin our session, I'd request Mr. Rao Hamid, who looks after the geography of Pakistan for Systems Limited in the capacity of a general manager. From sales to profit and loss, revenue and cash flow falls under his domain. He has an experience of almost 2 decades under his belt, which includes working for various multinational companies such as IBM. Mr. Rao, I'd like you to take it from here and share your thoughts about the RPA.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining in today. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. Not sure if this is going to be a keynote, but I'll definitely be opening a little bit for some of our more distinguished guests which are here today. Paul is here from Systems in the US and then he's the Director of Advanced Technologies. We've also got Asim, who's here from IBM. But traditionally, let me tell you a little bit about Systems. Systems has traditionally been a hub for the entire group and our enterprise and our group companies in about 8 odd countries at this point in time where it comes to advanced technologies. But I have to say that, for RPA, we have been led by our operations in the US. That being said, we've had a couple of very important wins against robotic process automation RFPs in Pakistan. And customers like Allied Bank and Telenor have chosen Systems to proceed with for their robotic process automation needs. At the same time, it's really been a journey for us from really talking to our customers about what type of benefits they can achieve from RPA implementations and how they can take them forward. Obviously, with Systems, we are a technology agnostic partner, but especially in Pakistan, we have been getting a lot of traction with IBM's Automation Anywhere RPA software. And we've gone out very aggressively with IBM in doing POCs for customers and going out and delivering projects as well. So our relationship with IBM is very near and dear to us. In Pakistan, just so you know, about 25% of the business we do in Pakistan is based on IBM's software technology stack. In banking especially, we've got about 70% of our business that's coming in from IBM. So our relationship with them has been very tightly knit. And I hope that we're going to be able to expand on that as we go into 2021 as well. Because of my role at Systems, I happen to be a numbers guy. So allow me to throw some stats at you. Gartner, the independent research technology company, called out RPA as the fastest growing enterprise category in the past 2 years. So just let that sink in. That's faster growing than data and AI and machine learning, which is in general what you've been hearing if you've been following technology trends. And it's only going to get a lot more traction as we go along. 56% of respondents to a survey held by Deloitte said they'd already embarked on this journey for RPA. Now this number is going to increase to 72% in the next 2 years. That's a drastic increase. A 63% growth rate in RPA adoption since last year has already made its mark. And in 2019, spending on RPA software rose to $1.3 billion from $800 million the year before. And it will continue to rise to about $12 billion in 2023. That's a staggering increase. We're talking about a 700% increase in just the adoption to RPA. Now, obviously, RPA adoption isn't going to be like flipping a light switch on and you sort of moving along the bandwagon. It's going to take time, and most companies will take time for their initial implementation. And that's where, system integrators like us come in. And we've been talking to a lot of companies over the past 3 or 4 months about RPA. Generally speaking, at least in Pakistan, what we've seen is that, that's how long it takes for our pre-sales cycle. But going out and delivering a project is fairly straightforward. Obviously, it depends a lot on use cases. And in most cases we've been very agile in delivering against RPA projects. And I can quote examples. I know at Allied Bank, which is a renowned bank in Pakistan, it took us about 2 to 2.5 months to implement 3 very important use cases. We're talking to them further about deepening our relationship with them, especially on the RPA front. But about 2 to 2.5 months is really what it took. And when we do cost and benefit analysis of return on investments, in general, RPA ROI is less than 12 months. And for people who understand technology as a business, this is extremely important, because that some of the enterprise technology offerings which are out there have return on investments which are in multitude of years, right? So it could be 3 to 5 to 7 years. And for example, if you're setting up your data infrastructure and you're going out and doing use cases against them, sometimes just to recognize the ROI on those enterprise technology offerings can take multiple years. It's very different with RPA. You're about to you can see results very, very quickly. And the cost of entry is very little. They're generally not multiple multi-million-dollar projects. They're generally smaller in nature. The advantages are realized almost immediately, and that's why it's so important to start thinking about which processes in your organization can benefit from RPA technology. Now, having said that, I think there is some skepticism in the market that, in general, robots are going to sort of overtake what traditionally human beings have been doing. As a result, this could be something that contributes to dwindling jobs. And it's important for all of us to understand that I did a very quick research a couple of days ago. And at this point in time, there are 3,000 jobs which are open in the US for RPA developers currently on LinkedIn. And that's just one placement platform that I've looked at. 3,000 in the US, 2,500 in the European Union, and 400 in the UK alone. So we're talking roughly 6,000 jobs. I understand in developed countries, but generally speaking, these trends always trickle down into developing countries like ours. But that's just one platform, and 6,000 jobs today that are out there in 3 different regions that I've just discussed with you. And what I want you to think about is that companies wouldn't hire if they weren't investing or thinking of investing in RPA technologies. I mean, that's the last thing as a business owner I can tell you. I wouldn't hire to try and I wouldn't hire to alleviate a small technology pain of mine. I would outsource that, or I would, hire contractors for that. But I'm talking about, full-time employment opportunities. As an example, RPA or Automation Anywhere certified resources we have at Systems, each and every one of them. And I can say this with no issues because, I'm very privy to this. Each and every RPA resource we have today has been outsourced to customers. We don't have any on the bench. We're working very aggressively in ensuring that, we're able to ramp up very quickly so we're able to service our customers. And in closing, I'm going to say that traditionally, the developed world has always outsourced labor-intensive low-cost jobs to the developing world, like Pakistan and India and the Philippines. And there's a new technology trend which is coming about, and the term is robo-sourcing. And robo-sourcing is basically, where these organizations in developed countries stop outsourcing those resources to low-cost countries and will start implementing RPA in-house so that they're able to get that work done very, very quickly, and they don't have to deal with, working with multiple suppliers. So in general, I think, the trend looks very good. The numbers are backing it up. I would encourage that you start talking to us or to IBM about what your RPA needs could be. Sometimes it becomes a little challenging or a little difficult to understand, what use cases there are that you could take forth, and I'm sure our experts will be able to help. So with that, thank you very much for allowing me to open. And with that, I'll pass it back to Saadain.
Well, thank you for your valuable insights, Mr. Rao. Without any further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Paul Savage, who is the Director of Advanced Technologies for Systems Limited. He leads the RPA Center of Excellence in delivering high-caliber RPA solutions to our customers. He demonstrates dynamic leadership qualities with excellent managerial skills in his role as a program manager, and he is certified in both UiPath and Automation Anywhere RPA products. As a 25-plus years technology veteran, he has served as a senior vice president at Bank of America, as well as a partner at major consulting firms, including CGI and Computer Sciences Corporation. Mr. Savage today joins us from the New York City. Good afternoon, Paul.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Paul, share with us how has RPA advanced to meet today's customer challenges?
Yes, no, RPA has really entered a new era. What started as desktop screen scraping has really broadened itself into, if you think, into a newer term called hyperautomation. And we're going to talk about that in this seminar. How we get there with hyperautomation, it's the leveraging of some new technologies, including machine learning models, document understanding, natural language processing, and process analytics. All these technology components have been woven into RPA products to create and deliver a new type of worker, a digital assistant. One of the thought leaders in the industry is Craig Leclerc. He's the vice president of research at Forrester, and he recently has been quoted by saying, "The new digital robots are invisible in the workforce, working in obscure data centers, and will be restructuring the workforce in the next 10 years." And that is really, really true.
Interesting. Now, before we move forward, I'd like to request the audience to feel free to send in their questions at the question tab available on this webinar tool. We will be answering your questions at the end of this webinar. Now, moving forward, Mr. Savage, I'd like to request you to give us more insights on what you just mentioned as the digital assistant for today. How is this digital assistant or RPA being used?
Sure. So what we're seeing in software robots that are being created are being integrated and providing value into a variety of processes, including payment systems, escrow, customer onboarding, and other back office operations. RPA software firms are now delivering important new features. For example, chatbots, which are being used for customer or client-facing websites. Document understanding capabilities leverage machine learning models and process analytics to ingest and catalog a plethora of form-based data. Think about one example is a VOI, verification of employment, where you have pay stubs from a variety of a large amount of companies, all providing a pay stub, but they're all different in one shape or form. With machine learning models, they can be ingested and interpreted for an application very, very easily. So what we're seeing is software robots can be integrated with a variety of systems. Another good example is IVR systems. And by the way, Systems Limited, we've built some chatbots as well as IVR integrated with natural language processing. So RPA has really exploded and is continuing further with integration of a huge amount of third-party tools that are out there, making RPA really perfect for delivering value to your departments and to your companies. You know, what I'd like to do now is I'm going to share my screen. Let me do that. Hold on. Please let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. What I'm going to do is now is walk through 3 use cases. These are bots that we have created for our customers, and so what you're going to see is a live bot, obviously videotaped, but this has been delivered to our customers, and they provide tremendous value, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But the first one that I'm going to show you is something called an LOS disclosure business process. LOS, by the way, is loan origination systems. And so in the manual process that a loan opener or a loan processor goes through, they go through this really cumbersome multi-step process to complete a disclosure process. It's very manual, it's repetitive work. Every loan has to go through this disclosure process. It integrates, in terms of business process, a loan opener has to look at a variety of documents. That information has to be extracted and then basically data transferred, key punched, whatever, into the LOS system. One of the big issues around there, of course, is this multi-step process. It is prone for human error. You know, interruptions, you know, for a coffee break, a phone call, an email, a meeting, can interrupt that process, losing track as to, you know, the multi-steps that are involved there. And a lot of this particular process, for example, will have a 24-hour SLA. And with a large amount of loans that have to be processed, there are times that this manual process does not meet that SLA. So what we've done for our customer is to develop an RPA solution. And what the bot is going to do, and you'll see this in a moment, it's going to go through the daily list of loans through a pipeline view of available loans for processing. As the bot will select each of the available records and do processing, it's going to take key value data like the customer, the loan number, loan type, and using business rules, it's going to navigate the variety of sub-steps necessary and the rules with those sub-steps that are required. The bot will extract the information from multiple images and from the systems there and update the LOS. The navigation of the multi-step includes things like address verification, fees, taxes, tax extracts, and several steps there as part of that disclosure process. The bot maintains a transaction log so that just in case something does not go correctly or there's some sort of error, whatever that might be, there is an exact transaction log at the loan number level so that the loan processors can go back and check this. And then, of course, we've built in this notification processes just in case there's some sort of system problem and so forth. The bot could not run because a particular system or subsystem was not available. For this customer, they were processing 25 to 50 loans per day, and it was taking approximately 20 minutes per loan. With the bot in place, it takes approximately 5 minutes per loan, and that is a 75% improvement in performance. Let me show you the bot itself, and I'm going to narrate this a little bit. Turn up the volume. So what you're seeing here is the LOS. This is a pipeline view, and the bot is now navigating into the different parts here. As you can see, there's a document to the right there. That's a PDF, and it's using a PDF viewer. So the bot is now scanning the information, and what's going to happen, it's going to look for key values and pull that data back and put it into the LOS system. So this is one example of this combination of data in the source system with extraction out of an available PDF. As you see now, the bot is now navigating. And if you look closely in the center of the screen, you're going to be seeing this back and forth movement. And at this point now, it's now selecting another document. In this particular case, it's mortgage insurance data that has to be extracted, and it is brought back to the LOS system. What you're looking at here is the bot doing this work, but a human being, these are the steps that that the bot mimics. In this particular example, it's opening now a subsystem. In this case, this is an address lookup, address verification. So the system is going into the USPS.com site, and you can see the bot is updating the address. So this is the address has been verified and is now being updated into the LOS system. The next step here is something called helm counseling. This is a part of a sub-process where there's geographic orientation, meaning the geographic location by zip code for this address, and then to look for available home counseling agencies that are in a radius for that address. And so right now it's doing the logic behind here to make sure the available agencies are listed, and as part of that process, it's going to select, I believe, the top 5 relative to that geographic location. Now it's going to progress to the next step, and something I'll mention while we wait for the next logical step here is you see these pauses. Well, this is an actual bot in operation, so it is connecting and talking to the variety of the source system, the LOS, and the associated subsystems. Now, as you can see, it's going to the next step here, and it's basically, this is a utility screen. It's now going to update information on and obtain a transcript of fees. So there is a subsystem called Smart Fees. It's now going to go out to that and request a tax transcript based on that person's, that loan number and the available data about that borrower. So it's going to do, in this case, it's property taxes. And as you can see, here's the transaction details. There's fees associated with this, and yet this is yet another document that the bot is scanning for, extracting data to be brought back to the LOS. Now, I want to mention while this is doing this is that there are 5 loan processors in this department who would do this kind of work on a daily basis. The objective from the customer has been to change that employee profile from 5 people down to 2 people, and then redeploy those workers into other tasks. So what you're seeing here is that kind of improvement, because at the end of the day, the bot is going to be processing all the available loans for this day. When the loan processors come in the morning, they're going to see the list of loans that have been completed and those that have gone into an exception. And so let's just say they have 50 loans overnight and 30 of them were successfully completed. Their workload for the day now is the 20 remaining loans. So now it's going to the next step, the text transcripts. It's now requesting the file. It's going to save the file in the local system there. There's the information. It's going to bring it back. Again, these are all the steps that a human would be doing in performing this task. The bot is doing that same work in that interaction between all the subsystem components. And I believe there's going to be one more step in here. But what you're really, here we go. But what we're trying to show you in this demonstration is the bot can be configured. It can be programmed in with the business rules based on the loan type, because there are varying rules based on that loan type. And it's going to process all these steps to the end-to-end process. The last step in this process would be the generation of files that can then be either stored locally in what we call the eDocs folder, or in the next step, and that'll be the next version we do this, is the plan to email the documentations that's been created, the eDocs, if you will, directly to the borrower in that straight-through processing. This bot is now finished. Let me go to the next. This is a really popular request by many, many clients. So in an escrow payment system process, what you have is information coming out of the finance department. This is monies are going to be moved from accounts over to an escrow account and then to a target system where the target system has to be updated. This is a very rote, very manual, a lot of time necessary. In this particular case, the client had approximately 300 to 500 loans per month, every month, where this had to be done. So, and it took them approximately a minute to do each of the loan records there. The bot can do it literally in 3 seconds, and you're going to see that in a moment. So let me just jump to the next slide here so that you can see the bot in action. So this is the startup screen, and the first thing the bot is going to do is, and by the way, behind the scenes, there's an Excel file waiting for it. It's logging onto the system. So all the work that's being completed in this process flow starts with an Excel spreadsheet, which is in a background process. So right now it's logging onto the system, and in a moment you'll see it'll go to the subpart, the different web pages that are part of this escrow system. In this case, by the way, this is USDA. You will see the bot now completing the last task. And any moment now. No, and we'll do this in a moment. You'll see the submit buttons pressed in a moment. So these time lags, by the way, are a function of the website, not of the bot. And so the bot is designed to wait for when that screen is available. So when the screen is available, then it will continue processing. So there's a built-in wait mode, if you will. So now this is the transaction page. And what you're seeing here is these transactions are coming through. And I'll call your attention to the bottom of the screen where it says total payment amount and total loan selected. You're going to see those number increments. So this was done with live dollars. And by the way, this particular process took approximately 3 weeks. And it wasn't because of the technology, but because we were actually using live data, and these are real dollars that are being transmitted. So we had to build accounting controls around that to ensure the integrity of the information here. By the way, as these transactions are going forward here, there is a transaction log that's being kept. And at the end of this run by the robot, it will then take that transaction log, save it, and then send it to the escrow servicing group so that they have a backup of all of the transactions that were completed for this run. So I mentioned before, if you look at the bottom, there's total payment amount. You can see that number is incrementing. I'm going to advance this. So right now it's $9,000 and 19 loans. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to advance this a little bit further. Now we're up to 11,022 loans. I'm going to advance it further. You can see the numbers 20,934, 44 loans. And even further, because it's the same, what you're seeing here is approximately 3 seconds for each row to be accomplished here. We're now up to 33,069 loans. $89 loans, 94 loans, and I'm going to let it finish here. Again, this bot, this automated workflow took approximately 3 weeks, but on a monthly basis, this sits on the desktop of the escrow specialist. And by the way, they have multiple escrow workflows and have to run them different times of the month. But instead of that person manually doing this and spending, 300 minutes, 500 minutes a month to do this particular escrow process, this bot, if you look at the bottom, it's 100 loans. This bot completed those 100 loans in 11 minutes. So this is the kind of performance improvement that we've delivered to the client. They like this so much. They have additional escrow systems that they have as in different departments to be leveraged and used in other places. Now I'm going to go to one more process here. This was done for a retail store. And what was interesting here is this. There is a portal site for customers to upload their tax-exempt certificate on behalf of their voluntary organization that they work for, school systems, volunteer organizations, where they're buying supplies from this retailer, but because it's a voluntary organization, they don't want to pay the sales tax. What they can do is upload their sales document. But there's a process to review and approve those documents. And we're going to show you what the bot actually does. And again, this is mimicking and replacing, if you will, this kind of work that was done by the tax department. So they had several specialists that do this. They get approximately up to 1,000 of these customer requests with documents. Those documents include PDFs, JPEGs, even photographs. And what the bot does here is to leverage OCR technology to actually read those documents, extract the data from there, compare it to the information, and do three things at the end of the day. Either approve the request, reject the request, or put the third part into a review category. And so what you're going to see, I'm going to go to the next slide right now, just to give you the idea of the process flow. It's going to open a portal. It's going to do some filtering. It's then going to select each of the records. It's going to then open up the JPEG, the PDF file that's available. It's going to then use OCR. It's going to extract the data. It's going to compare the information between what the customer had put in on the portal site and what's available in the document. It's going to go through that categorization, accept, review, and reject. By the way, the technologies here included the web portal. We use an open source Tesseract, OCR, ImageMagick, and GhostScript. So here's the bot in action. We'll get it started. Where are you? Oh, apologies. And here we go. So this is the bot starting up. And the first thing it's going to do is to log on to the internal portal system. You're going to see the logon occur in a moment. Here we are. The bot's logging on. By the way, the bot has its own login in this case. So it's truly a digital worker for this company. It's now going to go into the portal site and then select the review, the pending certificates for review. In this case, there's 554. And here's the list of the records. Now going to go through the process of filtering and now selecting. So it's selected the first record. On the left is the customer information that the customer had typed into the portal site. On the right is the right side is the uploaded document. It's now comparing the data in the document. That black screen is the OCR being invoked, and it's now gone through. This particular record is going to go into a review process. It's now going to go on to the next record and do the same thing. Comparing the data, do a little bit of OCR to extract that information, do the compare, and then decide accept, review, or reject. You'll see that there's the OCR, and this one's going to also be sent to review. This is running every day at 4 a.m. so that when people come into the office at 8 a.m., those records have been transacted. And again, as mentioned, depending on a percentage-wide basis, we know for a fact that all of the information was validated with 100% accuracy. This was built obviously in the states, so it was all 50 states and the 13 provinces in Canada. Each one of those jurisdictions has their own kind of form. So it was built in with this notion and idea of how to build these, how to extract from the various jurisdictions, the 50 states and the 13 provinces, extract the data and validate that, if you will. So that was done with 100% accuracy. And I can tell you in terms of variation, generally speaking, there was about 40% fell into the category of accept, approximately 40% went into review, and the remaining 20% went into rejection. And that was kind of an average. It's certainly, based on the information provided by the customers. So this is 3 examples of bots that were developed and deployed. By the way, this particular bot took 5 weeks to complete and then to deploy. And it's running today on an overnight basis. It's on a orchestrator. I'm sorry, not an orchestrator, control room where it's been deployed. This plus a number of other workflows are available on that server to be run based on a schedule or on a triggering mechanism, based on the architecture design and requirements from the customer. So those were 3 examples. I know we're going to have a QA a little later on, but I'd like to turn this back.
Well, these are some fascinating use cases, Paul. Next, I would ask you that what about these software RPA firms in today's marketplace?
So I follow the firms very closely, and as mentioned, I'm actually trained both in UiPath and Automation Anywhere, and those are 2 of, and the third firm, Blue Prism, are what I call the 3 top dogs in the RPA industry. Last year was an amazing year for these companies. There was, for each company, 500 million plus or investments made by private equity firms. Those three companies did a significant investment in artificial intelligence, process analytics, cloud implementation. If you're a company that's considering a cloud implementation, they offer private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid models for your RPA implementation and deployment. Additionally, they've added great new capabilities, especially in process discovery, process mining, so that you can look at your entire workflow processes at an enterprise level, at a department level, at a finite level, to determine what kind of process improvements, and include things like RPA as part of that solution set. So these are all the capabilities today that leads us from RPA into hyper automation. And so all these companies, and Automation Anywhere, by the way, is one of the top leaders. That, you know, they've developed some and deployed some very interesting tools that are out there, including Discovery Bot, IQ Bot, a variety of great tools that are available. And we at Systems have been able to successfully deliver applications, or workflows, I should say, to our customers, leveraging that really great technology.
Let me introduce Asim Noorani to everyone. Asim is part of IBM, and he's also someone who's everything digital at IBM. We've had a close relationship in the past, so Asim, over to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thanks System team for a detailed intro about the RPA, Paul, Saadain, Rao, and thanks for giving me a chance to provide a brief intro about the RPA technologies or the automation technologies which IBM offers over there globally. So starting with the slide that I find the most suitable one in order to define RPA, I believe you should be able to see my screen. So over here, basically in the robotic process automation, we are trying to mimic a human which is performing various tasks. So we can see that a human performs various tasks to different organs that are there in the automation. Similarly, IBM offers a complete automation suite whereby the journey can start with RPA or any other sort of automation. As we can see in the slide that we have various functions, like our eyes are performing a function of data capture. As Paul mentioned in his intro, that we are performing OCR, ICR in order to read the text that's available on the PDFs or any other document. So eyes are doing that particular functionality in the case of pod. And then we have different rule-based capability to define that either an application is going to approved or being rejected. And we might also induce cognition-based technologies like machine learning and AI in order to make the bot more suitable in terms of cognitive technologies. And all this thing is controlled through a coordination or orchestration system, which is controlling that when is the bot going to perform certain operations, when are we going to involve machine learning, rule-based engine, or when are we going to involve data capture in terms of the whole process. And then comes the RPA, which is performing the operation that is being performed by a human through his hands, that he is entering certain data into the system. So apparently all these technologies mix up to provide the sort of automation that the organization requires, RPA being one of the major ones of it. And now, considering this particular age, RPA have evolved so much that as per a Gartner study, this hyper automation is one of the top 10 leading innovation strategies in the organization. So a brief intro about the hyper automation. It's about infusing AI or machine learning into a bot so that it can basically replace your subject matter experts in the organization. It can decide at what point, what sort of robotic process or the process needs to be initiated based on the data that's coming in and the machine learning and AI that is infused into the RPA. So this picture basically mimics how RPA is working as a whole. Now, moving forward, what are the benefits that your organization gets in terms of having RPA in place? The first and the foremost benefit is the acceleration to time to value. As Paul said, or the systems team said, that these tasks do not take a longer time to automate. These are merely around 3 to 5 weeks project in which you can automate the end-to-end process and replace humans with bots. So you can really get value out of this particular tool very soon, very early, and with the maximum ROI possible. Similarly, we have humans in that we are replacing. Humans are prone to error. Once the bot is trained, there is a very limited chance to have any error in place via bot, because it just mimics what has been trained to the bot. Apart from that, increased throughput is one of the major benefits that the organizations view in terms of RPA, because humans have working times. Obviously, there are breaks, you need lunch breaks and all those stuff. In case of robotic process automation, the bot is going to run 24/7 without any breaks, without any lag time. So it's going to work 24/7 as a human is performing your task on the system. And apart from that, decreased development costs. This decrease is in both the sides. Usually, the automation does not take a lot of cost and effort in order to be developed, which is one of the things. And the other thing is that usually the organizations are using legacy applications, and those legacy applications, in order to automate those legacy applications, if we go into a phase of developing something new in those legacy applications, it takes a lot of effort and development time. So if we need to reuse our legacy application with the automation tools that are currently available, we can definitely put RPA on top of it to automate rather than putting further investments into the legacy or the old application. So these are few of the benefits that the organization gets after having RPA in place. One of the major questions that comes in when we have RPA discussions with our customers in the market is how to identify the best candidate. So just for the ease of the sake of the audience, these are few of the things or few of the points that helps us identifying the best candidate for the RPA. One of the processes that you might look into your organization is high volume tasks. If there are certain tasks that are very high in number, they are repetitive, and there is a huge number of full-time employees that are performing that particular task, it might be one of the suitable candidates for RPA. If there is a requirement to integrate multiple legacy systems and it's not easy to develop those integrations within those legacy systems, then we can use RPA and its technologies in order to integrate those legacy systems without any huge cost and automate our end-to-end process. If there are any repetitive tasks in your organization, then you can look into them as a suitable RPA candidate. If there are certain tasks that includes logics and rules and it has a defined process, then it can be one of the suitable candidates for the RPA. If there is any manual data entry required, or there are a high number of full-time employees that are engaged into a particular process, then you can look into those particular tasks as one of the suitable RPA candidates. So if you have any use case within your organizations, we would be more than happy to engage and identify if we can actually automate it via the RPA technologies. You can either contact us or Systems Limited for this particular thing. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, the future of automation is certainly very huge. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, gentlemen. That wraps up our first live webinar. The floor is now open for questions. Do we have any questions? Okay, if not, then we've reached the end of our today's event. I would like to thank all our speakers, demonstrators, and participants for sparing out time from their hectic schedule. I hope you all are going home with a better understanding of IBM automation technology and how it would benefit your businesses in the future.
Saadain, I believe there's one question.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I believe the question is that what are some of the local use cases that systems or IBM have tackled recently?
Go ahead.
I am unmuted. Okay. So these are back office operations. I believe in Telenor we have approximately 12 automations that we've completed, and there's a pipeline of additional work there. As mentioned by Raul earlier, we did work at Allied Bank. 3 significant automations that we did, again, for back office operations. That was delivered in approximately a 2-month time period. That's a real quick lift in terms of developing and deploying those bots. And as I mentioned in the 3 examples, you know, in the larger loan processing system you took there, that was about 8 weeks worth of work for the first version. And now we're doing enhancements on that. It's probably another 4 weeks there. And the escrow payment, 3 weeks. And then the last system, the tax bot that we created, approximately 5 weeks. So the lift is pretty quickly. It doesn't matter, you know, RPA is ubiquitous. It doesn't matter what the industry is or what the location is, per se. Again, we've had great examples of multiple clients from multiple industries across the space. And of course, we're able to, you know, leverage automation anywhere to rapidly develop and deploy these automations and the robots necessary to support them.
So I would like to add to it. And locally, if we speak about Pakistan, we are into various industries like telco, insurance, banking, FMCGs, and there are various use cases that we have implemented locally. Most of the use cases are from the telco side. If we talk about the unattended bots, like there are various use cases whereby back office was performing certain data entry, picking data from certain legacy systems to another systems, or something sort of, you might have noticed back office tasks like password resets or all those stuffs that are repetitive tasks and employs a high number of full-time people in order to perform it. Apart from that, there are various use cases that we have also automated on the front end side of the organizations. For example, call centers, we have introduced attended bot in order to assist a human that is working in the call center industry to perform his task better or to perform his task faster. So locally, we have worked over various back office cases. The work is going on into various industries, and there are also local use cases whereby we have brought efficiency in the front end call center or the front end people via the attended bots, whereby it's helping the human to perform much faster as and when required. So these are some of the use cases that we can provide you.
I see there's another question about how would you compare between Automation Anywhere and UiPath. My answer is they're both good. They're real competitive tools. And by the way, they're all competing with capabilities. I will just make one editorial comment. I know that Automation Anywhere had come out with their IQbot platform for document ingestion, categorization with their own built-in machine learning models. They have a significant library. They came out with that product about almost 18 months ago. UiPath only this year came out with document understanding, a similar framework, perhaps some newer technologies, but they don't necessarily have the entire libraries in the machine learning model libraries available to them. So I would say that's probably one leg up that they do have. If you looked at the user interface, depending on your background, if you are more used to a .NET framework, UiPath has always been a .NET framework, and so from a developer point of view, that might be an easy add-on, easy to learn, use if you've had a .NET background. I can tell you that Automation Anywhere has made some changes from their approach, which was a much more structured, script-like approach, and they're now morphing over to that .NET framework. Last but not least, I would say Automation Anywhere has moved their entire platform onto a single platform Again, they have on-premise as well as a cloud implementation, so they have a leg up in that particular area, which nobody else does have. So they have a single platform rather than an N-tier platform like the other RPA vendors do have. So in a market share point of view, Automation Anywhere, UiPath are vying 6 months to 6 months. One will have a larger market share than the other. They are leapfrogging each other all the time. And so at the end of the day, Automation Anywhere, excellent tool to use. Great market share out there, and something you should be seriously looking at.
Okay, I believe we have a couple of more questions.
I believe
so
there are two more questions that I would like to answer. One is related to the open source solution. I believe UiPath or Automation Anywhere, they both have community-based versions available. So if you need to start small or start by open source, you can start with any of these technologies that are available. Apart from that, there's one question around automation of repetitive tasks or how AI can help. So the thing that we were discussing around hyper automation, so you can just ingest AI in order to push artificial intelligence into a bot. So how a subject matter expert works into an organization is something that you need to probe into. Like, what are the basis on which he is making the decisions? We need to model our AI in that particular mechanism, and then we can infuse that particular artificial intelligence or machine learning into RPA bot so that they can act like a subject matter expert. This is obviously a pretty vast topic, but the whole thing is that it's not only screen scraping. You can push intelligence into RPA so that it can mimic your subject matter expert rather than doing any repetitive tasks. So it's a technology that brings innovation within your organization if you correctly use it.
Yeah, I'll go one step further. You use the term artificial intelligence. What you're really talking about there is really three functional things. It's machine learning, it's natural language processing, it's process analytics. Those fuzzy logic modules out there for the process analytics are all, leveraged by RPA and called in, if you will. So document understanding, which has machine learning models underneath that, is what's used to identify documents, the key phrases or the terms or the words of a document, the variations around that, the geographic location on the screen. That's all part of what document understanding machine learning models handle. You use a bot to leverage those models, and the models are then compared to whatever information, like a document, and a variety of documents, and it learns from that, and it keeps that repository of information of learned examples to expand the machine learning library or the machine learning model library underneath that. So AI is being used, as that broad term, but it is these different things.
Okay. A couple more questions over here I can see. Please explain the role and application of RPA technology in packaging and printing.
Packaging and printing. So are we talking about distributors and back office systems to support ERP? And when you say printing, are you talking about sending data, information, or structured forms and completed information to a print queue? And can a bot then monitor the print queue and send, if you will, print requests to the queue? Of course it can. That would have to be built in.
Okay.
We are actually doing it for a client right now. They're using a third-party service that has the capability of doing electronic documents, document templates, as well as printing. And so the bot is making a call to that service. It's passing either a completed document that's going to be routed to a customer, and based on whatever the rule-based information is about the customer. Do they accept email? Do they want faxes? Do they want a document printed and physically mailed to them? It's based on the business rules as the customer describes. I hope that answered your question.
Perfect. And finally, one last question. Should we use platforms like Automation Anywhere to develop our own custom solution for a specific use case?
Asim, do you want that one, or do you want me to take it? So I'll just add a piece of information. So all RPA tools, and if you go to the Automation Anywhere site, you'll note that they have their own bot store. And within the bot store, this is contributions made by a variety of companies, including systems, where we have created bots, frameworks, or what they call snippets. And this is completed code that's open-ended, obviously, and you can leverage those existing components to build your own automated workflows. So there's a variety of sources. Yes, you can do, if you will, from scratch, create an automation workflow, but you can also leverage components that are available. Likewise, you can also build your own repetitive components and put them in your own library. So you may have one task that opens up an application, does a login, it does some verification. That could be a pre-built component that can be leveraged across multiple automation workflows. You may have other logic necessary. Again, build it once, deploy many. So the tools today are that is built in the capability out of the box. And you can go avail yourself of available bots in the bot store that can help augment your available components so that you can rapidly build automated workflows.
All right, Paul. It seems we have a very interactive audience. Paul, one more question for you. And this one just came in. One of the major challenges worldwide is auditing RPA processes, as few of the companies are reluctant to do so. What are the benefits of auditing RPA processes for organizations? Any case reference that you would like to identify? So either Asim or Paul, one of you can answer this question.
So I can tell you that auditing and auditing capabilities is a built-in capability with Automation Anywhere. In fact, they came out 2 years ago with auditing controls right out of the box. So, and that is at the local level of a bot, if you will, a desktop bot or an attended bot or an unattended bot. So why is that necessary? So as we showed in the escrow automation that I demonstrated earlier in the program, we built in controls around that at the transaction level. Why? Because we're moving money at the end of the day. You needed an audit trail. So that bot maintains its own log of all transactions, whether completed or not completed, so that it can be tracked by the escrow specialist in that particular case. By the way, that's SOP for all of the automation workflows. You know, we build in automatically. We actually have if you will, a framework around transaction processing. But we, as part of our discipline for building automations for customers, that's automatically part of it because it makes sense. What if something should go wrong? Remember, this is software. Things will happen, and you want to be able to trace back. And you want the business user to be able to effectively trace back if something did not go correctly. Likewise, you want to go look at the log. Hey, everything got completed. You now have proof because the bot is writing to the log at the end of each record that is transacted. Does that help?
Exactly, and even after even if we infuse AI or machine learning into it, then audit becomes a very important thing.
Yep.
That needs validation that where our rules are going, how machine learning is performing, how is the AI performed, in order to further have betterment over the bot, in order to enhance it further.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for submitting your questions. And thank you.
I'm so sorry I'm cutting into you, but I just wanted to take one sentence, if you can allow it.
Sure,
Asim mentioned the use of Community Edition, right? And what I wanted to tell some of the attendees is that one of our major enterprise customers in the banking space, did adopt that route, right? So they went to the community edition, they played around with it, they got comfortable with it, and have now proceeded to the enterprise version. So, my encouragement to all of you is not necessarily to go that route if you really want to, but please do familiarize yourselves with the tool. I'm sure that Asim and his team can help us out we're happy to perform POCs for you. We're happy to get you acquainted with the tool as well. But that will give you the confidence that's needed to ultimately invest into RPA. And that links very straight up with what I was saying when I opened the dialogue. So thank you.
Completely agreed with Rao. Community editions are a good thing for POC or understanding the technology. But in order to move forward as an enterprise, we need a full-time support. And obviously, the community versions are not a production-ready version. It requires a lot of effort in order to keep them running. So, completely agree with you on this part.
And I'll echo that. Community Edition is a great place to get started. You can do small automations that'll prove it. It's not production grade or production level, nor will you get, but its purpose is to get your feet wet, if you will, to make sure that you can build an automation workflow using your applications, your data, and figure out, is RPA a good solution for your needs? When you make that determination, you'll want to grow that up, and you'll want to have, a professional grade kind of development, deployment, and support.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Let me check. I believe that was the last one.
Okay.
So with that, I would like to thank you all. Thank you for submitting your questions. And thank you, Rao, Paul, and Asim for joining us. Well, that wraps up our first live webinar. I'm sure a lot of you would definitely be seeking guidance from our experts. You can email us your questions. The email address is sales@systemslimited.com. And with that, I would like to end this webinar. Hope it added value, and hope it was a very informative session. And thank you all for attending this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.